And I should be doing that, shouldn't I? There we go. I could, but I'm not going to. Minutes of meeting, sorry, so call to order, we have approval of the agenda. Do we want that? The amended agenda?
And that's the one presented in. That's what I said.
Yeah. Who wants to make a motion? There you go. And I believe Joe Shannon seconded that. One thing I did note at the end and I don't know when to correct that, so sorry if this is not in order. We have adjournment of the September 25th, 2020 meeting. It should be 22nd. Other than that on the agenda, I don't see anything outstanding. Does anyone have any declarations of pecuniary interest? Has anybody benefited financially from our little project here? Oh, yeah. We'll take that as a no. Approval of the minutes. I just want to note that Fletch was not, we have him present and not present. At the last meeting, he was not present. And the other thing is we had another meeting called for March 24th. Obviously, something got in the way of all of our meetings, but since we are an archive committee, I thought it might be nice to put on the record that we didn't meet until now because we had a pandemic. So 100 years from now, when somebody is looking at the meetings, why are they not meeting during that time? They will. Well, we know how important this committee is. Can the chair do that? Okay, Ralph, thanks for that.
I move the minutes be accepted from last meeting.
Delegations, I would say no. Anybody have any correspondence? External correspondence? Have we received anything? Other than the flurry of accolades every time we do something?
I'm not sure what correspondence means. I mean, there's been a lot of correspondence going on because we've been active during the COVID time, and there has been communications with other council members and with certainly Cornerstone over the walk a mile, and all of the correspondence that took place during the Canada Day recordings.
So how is that defined?
Well, basically, I look at correspondence as anything that you just want to present. So not just like communications, but more for information to the committee.
There would have been a mixture of things. Like there would be things that we've communicated with people about that we would like to have come up during this meeting, during the things that we're going to talk about.
Anything that you didn't want to be an agenda item that you want to present as information.
Okay, so we do, I think under those definitions, we do have some new items or correspondence that we'd like to bring up. If this is a good time to do it. Ralph, I'm going to hand part of that over to you. And you can give us an update on some outstanding things. If you could give us an update on the Brighton I Remember series and on the Dan videos, we talked about that. And just... Okay. Oh, the amended one.
I'm just looking for things that might have not fallen into the agenda. One of the things that didn't fall into the agenda, well, can't include that here because I don't have communications on it. But we did talk about Brian Todd. It's in there? Okay. Then just let it rip. the question that we left since last meeting about Brian Todd is it still happening? Has it happened? Do you know anything about that organization? No. Nothing? So they haven't done any awards this year?
I went on their website yesterday when you and I were talking about that, and they have made 2020 awards. So they have a newsletter out about that. They have made, yeah, as far as their website, yeah, it goes, including grad awards, and there's quite a list of them.
So we've missed out on this year.
But I think we can apply anytime. Yeah.
Last time we talked about this, they had postponed all of their plans for 2020 because of COVID.
So the next item is the procurement, which we have left over from February. And because of COVID and the shutdown of every event, our wish list changed a little bit because we no longer need things for display. And Ralph, can you update us on that?
Sure. You all have a copy of the list of things. If you'd like, I can go through them and give you reasons why we want these things. But this list has been, the prices on these things changed almost daily. And during COVID, we've seen some things jump up in price unusually quickly and unusually high. One of the things was the tripod we wanted almost doubled in price. So it took us over our limit. So I went looking for and replaced that item on this list. The top item, which is the color checker, which is used to make sure that if you're using 3 cameras, you got the same color from each camera. This is very important to me. It was always available on Amazon at a price lower than this, under $200. And the last time I checked, it had almost doubled in price. So I went to Vistec. The price I've got here is from Vistec, which is a Toronto company, but we have to pay shipping. The hard drive, it's an 8 terabyte hard drive, which seems like the right thing to order in terms of size because of our video. I could reduce that to 6 and bring the price down by almost $100. Those bags are very important. We're still using my home luggage to carry our equipment around in. And these will store in that room that has been assigned to us. And this is the replacement tripod at the bottom. It's Canadian made, and probably the only thing on the list that is. And the total still comes under the $1,200 that was approved at last meeting. So I'd like to propose that we adopt this as the new list for purchasing our needs, and leave it at the $1,200. So that depends on Tom, I think.
To bring up to speed, we had a quick discussion. Ralph and Fletch sort of brought me in on how the committee has been purchasing things, just so I could get that understanding. So I looked into that. So as a committee of council, the purchases do need to be made by staff. So I can get an Amazon Prime account. So are the other 3 items all from Amazon? Okay. So that we can purchase those in a more timely manner, which I think was part of the issues that you kind of raised there. And I guess for the Vistec one, it doesn't really matter either way, right? Like the shipping is going to take the same amount of time?
That's right. You can order directly from
Okay. So yeah, so we can purchase all those items as staff and technically get the same shipping speed so we should have them in time for you to use them. I know you have some projects coming up that so if you guys direct me to do so, I can do that.
Does that require a motion?
Yeah, so the motion that is here says that the Brighton Digital Archives Advisory Committee approve the purchases of the items in the attached list, and we can just add to that and direct the deputy clerk to facilitate those purchases. Okay. Okay.
Do we need to have in there that we have adopted a new list?
Well, it says the attached list, which is attached to the agenda, and it is this list. So I think.
Someone may look at the last agenda and say, you've already approved this.
Yeah, I can add that in if you'd like. So I'll say the revised list. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All in favor?
Sorry, I missed that part. Where's the? It's downstairs.
You know the other meeting room on the same floor?
Okay.
Um, just across from it, there's a little door, and inside it is just a little cupboard.
Yeah. So these things all changed with COVID. 'Cause the meeting room is now offices. I'll have to look into that. Okay. Yeah.
But it was full of office supplies and things.
Okay. Well, I'll look into that. Yeah.
And we'll have to talk about access.
Right. Yeah. So right now it would obviously be only during business hours. Yeah. That seems like we can also have this part of the conversation at the next item on the agenda. Or 2 items away, I guess. Yep.
So, Ralph, why don't you give us an update on how you spent your summer vacation?
Well, Canada Day video, I'm sure we've all seen that. It was in the bag July the 1st, but it took months of preparation and 200 hours of BDA volunteer effort to get that completed. And we've had nothing but good responses to it. And 1,100 hits on YouTube and 2,500 hits on Facebook. And as I said, lots of positive feedback. And we just completed the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes with Cornerstone. That was completed just a week ago, I think. And it took about 66 hours of BDA volunteer time. Also a success. The person who represented Cornerstone absolutely loved it, and she has been talking to our friend at Kojiko, who is putting it into rotation on the day of the Walk a Mile that's happening in Coburg in real time. And on Canada Day, that video was on rotation at Kojiko all day long. It just literally took up the entire day. It was.
Why, yes. Why don't you take it away?
Yep, we can add that in. Yeah, I think that update is further down the agenda as well.
Show you one. We have been approached by, who was it? Ted Cook, who's actually with the Lions, but is representing the cadets who do the annual candlelight vigil on Remembrance Day. And that vigil is a candlelight thing that starts in the early evening and runs all night. But this year they're not doing that. There's going to be a virtual, and they'd like us to produce a short kind of documentary style video about that. So I'm looking here for the group's approval to pursue that. They're asking Ian Douglas to be a speaker, an on-camera speaker. What he says will be scripted. There will be a virtual ceremony at 6 o'clock one evening that we will record and turn into something much shorter than the usual 45 minutes that it takes to do that. And he talked about having a singer do a song during that video, and we said we could probably produce something that was under 15 minutes. So I'm looking for the group's approval to pursue that.
Ultimately, you're the one who's going to do the bulk of the work.
No, I think I need your approval.
Do you want to go on with the parade?
that what's happening, or the idea of what is proposed for that, there's going to be a particular route that gets set over 2 days, one rural and one urban. And so is the idea that it would follow the float, the...
Well, we could have cameras on the ground following the float, which is something we can go.
Okay.
And we can still shoot.
Okay, so I've got two parts to this motion, as I understand it right now. That the committee pursue the Community Events Advisory Committee virtual single float Santa parade, which includes the use and purchase of a drone. And further, that Councillor Tabman report to Council at the next regular meeting to make the request on behalf of the BDA committee to purchase the drone. Um, I'm hesitant to put her down in the minutes without, just say the BDA. Okay. Okay. Approve that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And further, that the purchase is added as an agenda item at the next regular council meeting. Okay. So if there's something that that a committee wants to set as a in the reports to council section or something like that, I just tell her what's, here's an item, like someone wants to make a presentation or speak to a specific item. Yep. Good point. Yep. Okay. That's October 5th.
Ralph, do you want to do the Brighton I Remember and the video updates?
Right now, I remember, just as to put everything in perspective, I've produced a list of all of the stuff that we've done on video this year. Not this year, but in all the time that we've been doing video. And I come up with a total of 50 videos, 21 of which are Brighton I Remember. And I didn't count how many people we've done, but most of them are two-part, so at least 10 or 11 subjects for this series so far. And I think we have a list of potential subjects. We've just been holding back on Brighton I Remember because most of them are high-risk people as far as COVID is concerned. Do The other series we've worked on is the Dan the History Guy series. We've done 2 series with Dan, and a total of 9 programs so far, none of them short. And I'm sure it wouldn't take much coaxing to get another series out of Dan. I think we'll pursue that. It's been a low... so far, all of Dan's videos are produced by just he and I in a room at Proctor House. And then Fletch has stepped in and we have done the editing together. So we'll continue to pursue that. I'll talk to Dan sometime. Could I talk about Holland Liberation? We were approached by the Hasty Peas in Belleville to do a Holland Liberation documentary style project, but I think that's gone the way. We thought once we passed the date in June when that was supposed to be celebrated, that we could still produce something because this is the year, but we haven't heard from the Hasty Peas. I think they're probably shut down, and I expect that has gone by us now. And I think that's it for video. I think that's it.
We can just, if you want to have a motion, it can just be to accept Ralph's verbal report on video projects. Yeah.
You know what always convinces people to do this? To look at what we've done. Okay, well then,
Did Ralph make the motion? Okay. Did you second it? Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
The next item, which is kind of nebulous in its wording, is the structure of the relationship between the BDA and the Municipality of Brighton. Fletch and Ralph and Tom got together, and there are ideas floating around. And Tom's going to tell us what they are.
Well, yeah, so like you said, and like I mentioned earlier, so we got together just to give me a picture of what the BDA does, so that I could kind of go into the meeting with a little bit more information. And during the conversation, Ralph and Fletch sort of brought up some of their concerns with the sort of restrictiveness of being a committee of council. That, you know, when they want to take an action, they have to wait till the next meeting to get that approval, and so on and so forth. And that in some sense, it doesn't really act as a committee. It's more of an operational organization that goes through the formality of having meetings to approve things, which have essentially already been approved. So I kind of put my thinking cap on, and I think this might have come up in previous discussions. I know it was a newly formed committee of council, so maybe this has been discussed. But I brought it up with the clerk as well, and we kind of came up with a potential solution that might make it easier for everyone to operate and just go ahead with the business without having to have meetings. So the recommendation would be, I think the process would be that we would have to, or the committee would have to make a recommendation to council that the committee be disbanded, and as part of the same recommendation that they seek council support through the budget process. So basically asking for the same amount of money that you're getting right now as a committee, so that you're still receiving that support, but being recognized as a self-contained organization. So that sort of frees you from having to have formal meetings that are potentially unnecessary, and you can kind of basically go about your business as you need to, with the same budget. So there's a couple elements to that. One would be that there would need to be a presentation to council. You guys would need to make a formal recommendation that this is going to be taking place, and as part of that, you would also, in talking with the director of finance, the best way to accomplish getting the funding would be through the grant and aid process, and that you could have that proposal ready at the same time. So you're making the presentation to council, asking to be disbanded, recommending to be disbanded, and to be recognized as a self-contained organization with support through council budget. Here is our grant and aid application. And there would need to be, I guess, an inventory of the current purchases that have been made as you've been a committee of council, because right now those are technically municipal property, but so there would need to be a conversation or some sort of discussion between council and the group as to what happens with that property, whether it be transferred, remains the property of the municipality, which might not make sense, but there needs to be some sort of identification of the process for what to do with that equipment.
There are so many questions here. And I'd like to say to Mary, we didn't go into this with Tom asking that we be released from our commitment as a committee of council at all. But
I think it came down to the budget. I'm not sure. That's what I tried to get to the bottom of that myself, because that's after the discussion. It was kind of like, well, the current relationship to me doesn't add up. Like, it's like you guys are basically an organization doing great work for the community with council support that, like I said, has to go through this process. So how did that happen? But I think it was the budget. I think that was sort of the factor.
Under their direction, and it became obvious that with all respect to them, but a great deal of what they were doing at that time was what was represented by what the Brightons are acting. So it didn't make sense for us under their auspices, and then it sort of became a least resistance to be our own community council, which none of us had a particular problem with it. Very happy with it. But I think one of the things, thinking about when I was at the meeting, I think one of the points which was brought up is purchasing equipment. Getting more friendly with purchasing equipment.
it's more than just purchasing equipment. It's about getting together as a group without having to do it on a monthly basis with this kind of structure, and making some of our own decisions and without having to wait for another month to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing we need to consider is if we transition and review of research and mentioning, will we have insurance coverage? Will we have guaranteed funding, which Mary just brought up? And we haven't talked about this yet, but that is
Mm-hmm.
what was it called?
SharePoint. Yeah.
We haven't explored that in the least, but we need to have some kind of, not just asset management, but from an archival standpoint, identifying characteristics and research points, like that. So it's not just we have these sunglasses and here's a serial number.
So SharePoint is actually included with any Office 365 subscription. So there is ways, I don't know the exact details of like how much space you get. You would likely have to buy additional cloud space, but yeah. So and the thing about SharePoint right now is that's not conclusive that this municipality is definitely going in that direction. Like that's the recommendation that is going to be coming to council, but it's not approved yet. So that was more like me just saying like, you know, there's potential crossover there if we went that way. But yes.
So would, in those, in that new structure, would we have municipal insurance, municipal government, and access to municipalities database? I think insurance is up to you.
So right now, like basically the liability falls on the municipality. Like, yeah. See, that's like my thinking on that was, you know, it's kind of like you can't fully have it both ways in that sense, right? It's kind of like if, so you got to weigh the options basically, right? Like you would have to have insurance. But the other thing that was brought up in conversations was like the Save Our Heritage organization, for instance, which receives council support. You know, is there some sort of tie-in with that, or is it just to look at this organization in a similar way as the Soho organization? Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Capture to archive that and current content creation, like the walk-along, like the how do you have a Santa Claus parade during the pandemic? You have it by having us do it, by having us create that. So we're still true to those roots, but I just don't see us fitting in with any other organization. And we frankly still could.
But I mean, I guess the idea is that, like, one part of, you know, the guaranteed funding kind of thing is there's no guarantee that this committee will be recognized by the next council. They may choose to disband this committee. Like, right now, the council does support this committee, but committees can change, right? Like, so that's one element to consider as well. You know, just food for thought, right? But to me, like when I look at what an advisory committee of council is, like, you know, what you guys are doing is operational, as you guys have pointed out, and there's really no advice to council here. It's just you guys are operating as an organization, and then this is part as a formality that. So that would be something that I think you would want to put in a proposal if you guys wanted to go this route, would be that, you know, some commitment to council that you would provide a quarterly or annual report or something to that nature of how you've spent that money that council has provided, and that kind of thing.
biggest concerns is not so much about the organization, but our assets. Where are they going to end up? What we have is important, and it can't get lost. It has to have a future.
One of my big concerns in changing it is we became a committee of council this year for the reasons outlined. We just outgrew where we were working before. We had 2 meetings and a pandemic hit. We haven't even had time to find our groove and to allow council to understand totally what we do. Council hasn't had meetings or hasn't had, it's changed. Everything has changed. Certainly you haven't had the presentations, the delegations. You haven't had the reports from us. This is a lengthier meeting than we normally have because there's a lot to report. We've been busy during this time. Personally, I don't think that we as a committee, and I'm not speaking for council, but it's understandable that they would not be, we have not had a chance to become familiar as organizations. All of council, the members obviously know us well, and we have an excellent relationship, but I don't think we've had a chance to develop that organizational relationship. And at this point, now, with a nod to you as an advisory committee, we are different. What we do is different. How we do it is different. But I don't think we've had a chance because of, I hate to lay everything on COVID because some things aren't, but we have had a pandemic where we can't have that those conversations on a regular basis, committee to council. So organizationally, I think there's still some things to work out and some awareness, but I would be hesitant to change anything until we get a little bit more familiarity with each other. I have no problem with the structure here. We have to find a way to make it work quicker, but council might be fine with finding a way to make it. I don't see council doing anything but encouraging everything we're doing, and we're doing a lot for council as well. So let's find a way that we don't have to have that 2 or 3 month lag for approvals.
Purchase, well, I don't know. There's a lot of the things that we do are within what we've defined for ourselves, like creating videos within the context of what it is that we do. But we often are approached from outside that context now, and those things we feel we need to have approval for.
So maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. Maybe council would say, yeah, here's what we do. We create original video content. Create projects. Go create.
Yeah, like that's one way to do it is to, even from this committee, there could be like a motion. It's the purchasing that it still has to come through staff if it's a committee of council. That's one of the big things, right? Like, that as I understand it anyway. So then it has to come to a meeting in order for.
You know what? I think we can work with that.
Okay.
Once a month,
Yeah.
it's okay as long as
Yeah.
we move ahead.
But we lost Patrick, and that, that was another fall between the cracks. So we lost the guy who's going to work with the other. Thankfully, we have Paul, who seems to be a great person. We have a pandemic where there are no meetings. Personally, I don't feel like I would be hesitant to leave because I don't think we would have given the relationship a chance to develop as it could. And maybe council got a lot on its plate. I doubt they would care if we asked them for permission to make a video. They are happy we're making videos. I'll go and represent as well. I don't think we need council's permission to do a video if he was doing it.
How about
Mhm.
purchase back in February, so global events and global events slash Patrick Leary kind of put that forward. But I like your solution. MasterCard.
Mhm. If you don't have a quorum, you can. It's not a meeting. That's the technical rules. Yes.
No, not at all. We have to follow all of these rules.
Yeah. So there, like there's. This is why I wanted to put this on here because there was this. There's room for discussion here, right? We've got to put these things out in the open. There's some restrictions here. There's but this is obviously your guys' decision as a committees and.
And you know what? I think on that clarification, we wouldn't be making any structural or financial decisions. Just operational.
Mhm. Mhm.
From a council standpoint, Mary, does council care about every video? Do they need to approve every video we make? So we can get together as a group outside of here. That's our group. We always set this up when we had our initial discussions with Councillors Tadman, Rowley, Vink, and with Linda Whittefield. We always set it up recognizing that there would be the committee of council group and there would be the working group.
Okay.
So it was always recognized at staff and council levels that we would come together with meetings and present updates to council and seek approval for activities that may be outside of our normal recognized roles. But in the meantime, the working group would get together. I don't think council cares if I'm scanning 500 Brighton postcards. I think they're happy that we're working. The working group outside of the committee is doing their job, and the working group reports to the committee. The fact that it's very similar faces in that, but we're not all together all the time. You have taken the video lead. Beth hasn't been overly involved again, just because we haven't had meetings. I've done more of the scanning and more of the database update. So we all have different roles. But then we come together and we say, here's what we're doing, council.
There will be BDA volunteers who are not committee members who will take part in some of those working discussions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you guys are good just leaving it as is, then that's absolutely fine. And as long as that, I think the biggest one that we did talk about was the purchasing thing. But in this case, you're right. It's a series of unfortunate events that happened that led to this huge delay, right? If it's a monthly meeting, and like I said, as far as I understand, it's just that the purchases have to happen through staff as a committee of council. So with the Amazon setup and everything, we can still get things done pretty quickly. So
the stuff that the equipment that we approved,
on this list,
when will you order that?
I can order it probably this week anyway. Possibly. Yeah, I do.
But we were told early on, again in the meeting with Councillors Rowley and Tadman and Vink and Linda Whittefield, the purchasing was absolutely to be done this way. So this isn't a surprise.
Right.
It's just things happen in
Yeah.
the world that had nothing to do with that. And
Yeah.
yeah, so.
I'm fine with all of this. The thing that I would like to continue to pursue is having you work with us in discussions about what's it called?
SharePoint.
SharePoint. Because we have our own subgroup that's looking after Catherine and me and Beth. If the three of us could get together with you and have a preliminary discussion about the potential of that software, it would be great.
Yep. Yeah, we can do that.
I think Fletch would love that. Fletch would love the chance.
Yeah, but he's only got 10 minutes.
I think Fletch would love it more than council. Fletch, his presentation he gave the Imperial Library Association is fun. We can squish it down. And that was supposed to 15 minutes or 22. Yeah. But, yeah. Are we all good making a motion to have Fletch?
Well, we can talk about that and then we'll have a presentation.
Yep.
You know what we could do? What if we had the power to tape?
We could make a video.
We could video the presentation, and then we could edit it down, it could be fun, we could have music and popcorn. Well, I mean, what a great way to showcase what we do.
You could do a compilation. Okay.
How long is it?
That's 4 or 5 minutes long.
And how, of the most recent stuff too, though?
I thought you were all
That's when he's at the last.
yeah.
Because the recent stuff, everybody really liked it. It'd be nice to.
Well, and I think we need to add in that, like, so that's a nice, of what we had done.
Yeah.
But also just who we are, how we do it. We can-
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we. I would have to how long. I'm not very good at taking pictures.
Well, can you pull up the hours? Here, our volunteer hours? I'm third on the list, and I have 600, I think I have 600 some, and 900 some hours.
Because those are the things you want to tell for sure.
Ralph is,
Mm-hmm.
we could just wait. And honestly, yeah, and honestly, and just because of the volume that came in all in one time, we turned our attention a lot to the video process, content creation. What we have on our website now is 5% of what we have scanned. Right, I think you have 10,000 images, and some of them might be, I think I have 6,000 images, and some of those might, that's what the database has.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those might be similar, but the sheer volume of rights and history and narrative is represented by what we do, and because of people trusting us with the document. Yeah. I mean, we get 10, I can't say enough about that, you know, they'll say, I'm gonna drop a box off, and it'll be 300 postcards, right, and that has not just heritage value, or archival value, but that was their business. That's about $90,000 saleable item. Give it back to me when you're done. Yeah. So the trust factor, the sheriff's not very interested, or going to phones and video, that's, you know, you break an antique or a valuable item. But the trust factor is also.
Absolutely.
So what did we just say?
I just put that the committee make a, or plan to make a presentation to council to provide context for the work of the BDA committee.
I would make that motion.
Yeah?
Would somebody second that? Mary will second it.
Okay.
And is everybody in favor? Can we put in the, what? It really seems sad to have him not here and not to get him this all. Thank you for that, right? I mean, it's a good opportunity. We speak to councilors individually, but I think people should be there. Yeah. You can, there's a pandemic, you can't do that. There's a pandemic.
Yeah. Not all at once, not a group.
Is there, I don't know, what do we?
Well, regarding the database thing, we don't need a motion for that. And I think we can just, you guys can get in touch with me and we should set up like a little meeting and we can just talk about what that is.
After council.
I mean, we can explore it right now, right? Like, I mean,
You know what, you still need to get our hands on what it is now. And that's a big job. We can't tell you what it is.
right.
So we have all of this different versioning, all added up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, like we can take that as it comes, right? The records management system that we're planning to implement will be going to council on October 5th. So sometime in October we could maybe have that conversation a little bit more realistically as well. Yeah, and I would have to, no, and it's just, there is definitely more discussion to be had anyway, because I would have to see how, I think it would have to be a subgroup with special permissions and all that kind of thing, whereas it could be that, or maybe the better option is to pursue your own certain amount of space of SharePoint and include that in your budget for next year, right? Like, a few things to kind of think about there, so it definitely just give me a call and we'll figure it out. Yeah. Yeah, you can look into that. But okay.
Yeah, that's serial numbers, photos, everything.
I'm maintaining my own.
Okay.
He's never come downstairs. He just never got it. Not so much these days. Where are we on motions?
We're good with that. Yeah, we're good with all the business.
Next meeting date?
Let me look at the calendar here.
We have, everybody good?
So, yeah, so the fourth Tuesday has been the traditional day. Yeah. All right. So it's the 27th in October. 1 p.m. Provided there's no significant changes to, but I mean, this is a pretty small enough group. Like, as long as we can keep the numbers to between 8 and 10 or less. This room works really well. We can have everyone's physically distanced. We've got the camera going. We cover all the bases as long as nothing changes that drastically reduces those numbers, right? Yeah.
Somebody else copied an email.
The planner, Paul Walsh. So yeah, most of the other, well, all the other committees have like another staff representative. I think that might be another discussion for another day. Right. Like, he's the planner, yeah. Yeah.
So we need a motion for the next meeting date, or that's the thing?
Just a thing.
Okay, so we need a motion for adjournment.
Yes.